You're listening to the Temple High School Football Coaches Show on KTEM and K1017. You can listen live from any computer in the world on that Radio Pup app that you can download for free on your tablet or smartphone. Jamie Garrett here. Good evening as we welcome in head coach Mike Spradlin for the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. And we get one more go at it here, Coach, and certainly won't be saying hopefully we'll be seeing you next week, that type of thing, because we know that it all comes to a head this Saturday night. And I saw another great picture that somebody posted online of you surrounded by the players Saturday night after that game, and with the one in the air talking to your guys. It was just a great picture and really kind of shows how much this means to that guy, because I looked around at each of the faces on those guys, and not one player or cheerleader or trainer or anybody else was looking anywhere but straight at you, and it's got to be a good feeling to walk off that field Saturday night out of the Alamo Dome, 10,000-plus Wildcat fans screaming, knowing that you get to play for the state championship this coming Saturday.
Well, there's no question, Jamie, it's a big moment. I mean, I've had people tell me, and they're right, that it's been a process for us, obviously. And, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, you had to win 5 games to get here. And then the next week it was 4, and then the next week it was 3. And honestly, the one last week was the one that probably, quite frankly, had the most pressure to it, because you get that close and then you realize, hey, if we just win one more, we're going to be in the show. And man, I can't say enough about how great our kids performed, accepted the challenge, went into a dome stadium, which I thought was a big deal for us. Loud, different, all those kind of things. And I thought, quite frankly, may have put together one of our better performances throughout the playoffs. It's been an interesting road for us, and I've kept saying this all along. We've been pretty battle-tested, Jamie, and I thought it proved and paid off for us, on Saturday night. I can't say enough about how fired up we are, but yet remain focused.
And of course, looking at that game Saturday night, one of the keys to Temple's success, when you look at it as a whole picture, has been fast starts. I don't think there's been one time in the playoffs that Temple's been behind. I think the only tie we've seen after 0-0 has been 35-35 in the Ridgepoint game. So would you say that this team and Chad's ability, Jeff's ability, Marcus, he's been coming in on the third drive. We've seen him a little bit earlier, more recently, but the offensive line, everybody that works to make that first drive, I think it's 8-9 weeks in a row now that you've taken the ball first, and I think in all but a couple of those games you've taken it and scored.
Well, Jamie, we do preach starting fast and then finishing strong, and the fast start is something we want to be a part of and something we want to do. And obviously, each game takes a mind of its own. You got to be prepared to do what you have to do. But our offense is whatever that first possession is, whether it's the first possession or whether they get the ball and give it to us. I mean, we want to go out and try to establish some continuity and move the ball down the field and get touchdowns, and that's what we do. I mean, it was a game Saturday where we ran 93 plays. I think we held them to about 60. So we knew they were going to go fast. And our job was, I thought we just couldn't have done it better. Defense got us the ball, and then we knew when that happened, we needed to go score. It's something we preached to our offense, is that when the defense gets a stop, we need to take it and go score. And when we were able to do that, all of a sudden you look up and it's, 28-7, and now they're in catch-up mode, really, realistically, for the whole game. I mean, it was quite frankly for me, Jamie, I don't know. I haven't gone back and looked. I mean, to have 882 yards of offense in a state semifinal game, that may have happened somewhere down the road. I don't know. I'm not the record keeper and don't know that I care. I just know that that's a big night for us in a big stage with 4 teams left in the state of Texas.
It really seemed that offensively, and you've put up 70 already this season. You put up 60 plus on several occasions, but it just felt like and looked like the offense was as in sync as they've been. Starting at the front units, Chad was kept, it's a turf, but, he's figuratively kept clean the whole night. They protected him when he needed to throw the ball, especially in some of the deeper throws. The offense opened up plenty of holes for 3 different running backs to go over 100 yards. So it just seemed that whoever was out there, whether it was Neely in earlier than we might expect or even Cole Martin when he came out and led a touchdown drive, and then certainly you got down to your third-string quarterback, it seemed like everybody was playing efficiently and doing the job asked of them.
Well, we're playing right now with great energy, both sides of the football. And, it's going to take that this Saturday in Jerry World. I mean, we're going to have to, we're going to have to do that. I mean, we've got to keep that energy up. And it's been kind of funny, Jamie. We've talked all year long about focus and staying in the now and focusing on the prize and, of the week. And interestingly, I finally told him, I said, well, now you really can talk about a state championship, because now you really, even though we've been playing for one every week, we've tried to keep our kids grounded in the week. And of course now it's this week, and so for the first time, I mean, we've been talking about winning area championships and regional championships and all those things. And now we can actually talk about, the fact that we're going to actually be playing for a state championship. And I think it's a big moment for our kids, big moment for Temple. It's only the fourth one that they've ever played for. And I think, or since 76 it is. And so I think that's a big moment for us, and we're going to try to make it happen.
Well, Saturday, 12 noon will be the kickoff from Arlington Stadium. You mentioned the fact that you played in the Dome Saturday night certainly will help to keep those eyes from getting too wide when they get in there. But there are some young players, and certainly for Temple, this is the first time they've been there. You've been there in a long, long time. But it doesn't seem like that is something that affects this team. I mean, you look at Chad, president, after the game. He's got a smile on his face. He's jumping up and down, hooting and hollering. But for about 30 seconds. And then, it's back to business for him. It doesn't seem to be something that will affect this team.
Well, I think it's been that way. And I think if you're going to do what we're doing, it has to be that way. I took a calculated risk, to be honest with you, and I thought to myself, if we could go down to the Alamo Dome and get in that atmosphere and win, and I thought that would pay dividends for us, this Saturday. And of course, and I believed in our kids' ability to put all that out of their mind. Because, I mean, as a coach, you do think about those things. Okay, am I doing the right thing? Am I getting us in the right atmosphere? Am I doing, what we need to do? And I'm not a second guesser. I'm really not. I never have been, never will be. But I made the decision based on the maturity of what I thought our kids were able to do. We've never once talked about a venue. We didn't talk about the Alamo Dome. We didn't talk about anything. We just know that our fans were going to be there, which is a big deal, by the way, I might add. We were goal line to goal line, there in the Alamo Dome. But, I just felt like our kids would go in and take care of business. I mean, I think it's the way they've approached everything. So, they've proved me right, so to speak. I mean, they've backed up my play. And now I think the opportunity to go play indoors again takes that element out of it, this weekend. And that was kind of part of why I wanted to get in the Alamo Dome in the semis.
Well, it was maybe after the second playoff game, several weeks ago, a month or so ago now, that you said, and stepping outside that coach speak box and said that, we feel like we're one of those teams. We feel, there's 64 teams, there's 32 teams, there's 16 teams, and all along, every step of the way, you've reiterated that why not us? We feel like we can be there. You're finally there now. What was it in this team? I mean, X's and O's aside, anything can happen in the playoffs. There's got to be something there intangible-wise that you saw about this group. What is it about this group that so early on in the playoff run you just knew that Temple belonged?
Well, I mean, it started a year ago, and it's a belief system. I mean, it's a belief in each other. It's a belief in each other's ability to do what they're supposed to do and to play hard for that guy next to you. I mean, I talk all the time to our kids that, it does take team chemistry. It does have to be a family. You have to care about the guy next to you. I've never heard – I never saw Bill Belichick when they won a Super Bowl stand up and say, "Oh my gosh, great job, guy. We did this in spite of the fact we got a bunch of guys that don't do what we ask them to do and don't have very good chemistry." I mean, it's always about that. It's always about a belief system, and we put that belief system in place when we got here. We've been preaching that. We've been trying to preach to our kids confidence in yourself, confidence in each other, and confidence in this family. And I think when we went out and played Cedar Hill a year ago, I keep going back to this. I think that was the moment when, even in defeat, when things clicked for our kids and they realized, whoa, wait, time out. We led this game up until 2 minutes to go, and then we watched Cedar Hill go on and win a 6A state championship. I think our kids at that point realized, well, wait a minute, it really could be us. I mean, we really are good enough to get on that stage and make things happen. And I thought that motivated us not only this season, but all through the off season, all through the summer. And then we began to believe in ourselves as we went through the season. And, I'll say this again, Jamie, and I've said it many times. This has been a very unique year for us. When you go in, as a ranked team, so to speak, we took some shots now. I mean, we looked up, and each week we were the feature game of the week for everybody. I mean, everybody took their best shot at us, everybody. And we saw that on film. I mean, we would play teams that, quite frankly, didn't look as good, and then they come out against us trying to, we got everybody's best shot and took it. Won a district championship in week 10, and, have now since put, another 5 gold footballs on the shelf. So we put 6 gold championships on the shelf in the last 6 weeks, and I think that speaks volumes for the character and the motivation and the willingness and want to of our kids.
And the adaptability and ability to overcome adversity as well. And not just, we've mentioned here on the show several times, the bus that didn't have an air conditioner on the way to Austin Westlake, weather delays, cancellations, stuff like that. But it goes back beyond even that, back to Chad President, the adversity that he had been facing since early in the season in 2013. He was kind of that lead by example guy because he got himself healthy. He got to where he needed to be. He was ready to go week 1. And is there that sense of, for Chad President and that kind of led these guys to show the ability to overcome adversity and show that they can overcome anything?
Well, absolutely. And I don't, while Chad's certainly a part of that, and I love Chad and I love his leadership, and he's absolutely maybe the best, most passionate quarterback leader I've ever been a part of. But, it's not just Chad, Jamie. I mean, this is a team full of guys that have chosen to buy into what we're doing and chosen to buy into what's going on here. And I think it's been the magic mixture, that we're physically strong. They've bought into that work. The mental part of this game is huge. There's no question about it, but you've got to be ready physically too. And I thought our guys put in the extra time. They did what they had to do to be the best they could be athletically. Because it's not all about how great an athlete you are. It's all about how hard you play and how hard you're willing to get in the weight room and get stronger, because everybody can get stronger. We think we're a physically strong football team. We, quite frankly, think we play a pretty physical brand of football. We're not mistake-free. We're not always, we're not always the most, we preach intelligence, and we're not always the most intelligent group sometimes. But our mistakes are typically hustle mistakes. They're not stupid mistakes. I'm not going to say we hadn't made some, but rarely. And so, man, I got to tell you, it's been a ride unlike any other for me, and here we go in the state championship game. Yeah, I mean, Aledo's good. We know that. We see that. And everybody's already asked me, they've won 4 out of 5, and all I know is they hadn't won this one. We're going to make them go ahead and play for this one. We're not going to go ahead and give them the opportunity to just claim it because they won last year's, the year before's, or 10 years before, whatever they did. I mean, this is a game that's won on the field. It's not won by what you did last year. It's not won by what you did last week. It's what we're going to do Saturday at noon that's going to matter the most. And I have every bit of confidence our guys are going to bring it to the table and make them. We're not going to walk out there and hand them that trophy. I mean, we're going to make them earn it, and then our belief system is in place that we believe we're the guys that are capable of taking it.
Well, we'll talk about that game a little bit more in depth coming up in just a little bit. Also on the special hour-long edition of the Temple High School Football Coaches Show, we're going to talk to defensive coordinator Scott Stewart. Just a fantastic job by that defense Saturday night. The Vipers got within, I think, 27-21 at one point in time. Offense was able to pull away at the end of the first half, thanks in large part to that defense. I mean, they don't get a lot of publicity, and I know Coach Stewart probably prefers it that way. A very fiery guy. Got to love the passion that he's got for it, but also the results that he's produced here so far in the playoffs.
Well, usually that's the deal defensively, Jamie, unless you've just got that guy, on defense that really sticks out. That's one thing I like about great defenses, and the ones that I've been around and the ones that I've had an opportunity to coach, is that there typically are blue-collar guys. They're guys who aren't looking for fame and glory. They just love to play the game, and they love playing the game together. And Coach Stewart and his staff have done an awesome job of pulling that unit together, getting them playing hard, getting them to play for each other, getting them to trust each other, because defensive football is a lot about trusting the guy next to you to do his job so that you can do yours. And I thought our performance the other night, I know people look and say, well, they scored 35 points. Okay, well, they scored on 5 of 15 possessions, which means 10 times they didn't score. Now, we look in the 2 big plays and that they got. Obviously, if we turn those down, we really feel good about ourselves. But I think at this point in the season, it's about the W. And it'll all be about the W on Saturday at 12 noon. That's what we'll stay focused on, and that's what we got to stay focused doing. I'm really, really proud of our defensive kid and what Scott's done. with those kids.
And certainly for the yeah, but crowd that would say something about those 35 points, yeah, but it's 2 touchdowns less than they've been averaging throughout the season.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
as Temple's done offensively, they do the same defensively, just blowing those averages completely off the record books, because it means nothing when Temple has come and played whoever it may have been. So.
Well, and we held them to 210 yards less a game than they'd been averaging. So, the bottom line is we held a team that came in with a lot of confidence in what they were doing, and then absolutely scored at will. I mean, I've never been a part. I mean, honestly, that's the highest yardage output of any game I've ever coached in, and we've had some pretty good ones. Yeah. But I mean, when you're 808, when you're 18 yards away from 900 yards of offense, and you took a knee the last 3 plays of the game, I mean, I got to tell you, that's pretty special effort by our kids. I thought we were phenomenal up front. Our kids played really well, and then, of course, our skill guys went to work and did some really good stuff.
Well, certainly before we move on and talk about Lido in our next segment and bring Coach Stewart in, offensively, when you talk about the scoring at will, they were able to bottle up Davion Curtis for the most part, but that's the great thing about this offense is Aaron Freeman's right there on the other side. Keon Seastrunk had a couple big catches, and of course, Chris Minter, it seems like every time he touches the ball, it's either for a huge first down or for a touchdown. So guys got involved beyond just the typical players. But when you talk about those typical players, and I know stats mean nothing at this point in time, whether it's a 2-0 win or a 76-35 win, you'll take the W and kindly move on. But did you realize in the game that Marcus Hatcher was as close to 300? I think he finished with 287 in the game, somewhere around there. Is that something that I mean, did you recognize that kind of game was happening? Not down to the yardage necessarily, but I mean, he was doing everything out there.
I mean, honestly, Jamie, no. I mean, I'm always in the moment in a game. I mean, I never get ahead of myself, and I never try to live in the past. I mean, it's all about the next play, for me and calling plays and things like that. I mean, I've got to get to the next play. I can't stay focused on stuff. Now somewhere, when the clock's ticking down and I look up and I mean, my coaches will tell you, I mean, they somewhere with about 5 minutes left, the guys upstairs said, "Coach, can we come down?" I said, "Not yet." I mean, I never, and part of it is I have to process that. I said, "Okay, so how many we up?" I mean, that's kind of where, because to me, it's all about finishing, and I realized, yeah, guys, come on down. But I mean, I honestly didn't. I mean, I realized we were having a good day, and we thought we could. I mean, what you saw Saturday was the execution of what we thought we could do. I mean, we didn't throw the ball as much, although we had over 200 yards, and Chad, I think, was 13 or 15 or something like that. Had a great day. But what you saw was a team that went out and thought they could dominate up front, which we did, and thought we could run the football, which we did. 677 yards of rushing is pretty crazy in the state semifinals when you're playing in a group of 4 teams.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with defensive coordinator Scott Stewart joining us, and we'll talk about that defense, looking ahead against Aledo and what they bring offensively as we continue with a special hour-long edition of the Temple Coaches Show. Don't forget this Saturday, 11 a.m. pregame, 12 noon kickoff. We'll have the pregame show, and then we'll get into that broadcast at 12 noon. 5A Division I state championship game featuring your Temple Wildcats. We'll take a break. We're back with more of the Temple Coaches Show next on KTEM, News Radio 1400 KTEM. Welcome back. You're listening to the Temple High School Football Coaches Show on KTEM and K1017. Jamie Garrett back with head coach Mike Spradlin here as we continue to look ahead at the state championship game Saturday, 12 noon, 11 a.m. kick, our 11 a.m. pregame here on KTEM and, of course, K1017 and online, KTEMnews.com or K1017FM.com. Lots of different options to listen as the Temple Wildcats look for their first state championship since 1992, and a big reason for that. A lot of headlines for the offense, but a lot of work put in by the defense this year, and defensive coordinator Scott Stewart joining us. And, Coach, another week where a lot of people continue to say, yeah, but this team you're going to face does this, and this, and another week of the Temple Wildcats just completely blowing up anything that the opposing offense wanted to do. They got theirs, of course, and I know that you're one that's not going to be happy with 35 points.
No question.
But overall, aside, especially in the second half, late in the first half, second half, aside from a couple of big plays, a 60-plus yarder and an 84-yarder through the air, they didn't put together drives, and your defense was able to shut down anything that they threw at them, especially second half on.
Yeah, and those 2 plays, minus those 2 plays, I felt it was a pretty solid effort. I mean, that it just goes to, it just shows you the the effort, the mental effort, and the concentration and the consistency it takes to shut out. Because if you screw up one of these defense, if you miss a line, if you misfit, it's not a big play. It's a touchdown in December. And we learned that the hard way. I mean, 21 points, they earned it. They're a good offense, but those last two, those hurt my feelings. And that's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be. A lot of people want me to be happy about that. It's just not going to happen. But, I am very proud of our kids. We still have some consistency issues, obviously. And again, they're beginning to understand that when you screw up in December, it equals points. And those are the kind of things that cost you in big games, and we're going to try to do everything we can to batten those down. But other than that, I thought our coaches came together with a good plan, got it installed with the kids. Kids knew what they were doing, and I was proud of the effort.
Well, I'm going to say something too. I'm going to jump in here too because, we were a very fast-paced bunch the other day, and because of that, they are too as well. And we talked about this last week, but. They really do run our stuff. I mean, it is what it is. And so when you look at the amount of possessions that those guys had, which I think was 15, Stu.
15.
They basically scored on 5 of them, and 2 of those were just what we call, kind of gave them up, so to speak.
And one gift wrapped because of officiating, in my opinion.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I thought our effort was awfully good, and I certainly understand Scott not liking that. But the bottom line is at that point we'd stretched out into a 3 or 4 or 5 touchdown lead, and I think they kept getting us the ball back. That's what we need our defense to do is just get us the football, and they did that the other day.
And did it with turnovers, did it with 3rd and 4th down stops, forcing punts. They had a fantastic punter. That guy had a leg. But defensively, I would have to think that a one-play quick strike, it hurts your feelings, as you said, but at the same time, that's not 14 or 15 plays going downfield where your guys are just either getting beat or out of position on a consistent basis. Right. That 84-yarder, you could clearly see that a defensive back had taken a wrong angle and kind of let him go around, and those types of things I would imagine are a lot more correctable than 14, 15 play drives where your guys just get beat.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's I'm always going to focus, and I do preach to our kids about, listen, I love you and I'll tell you good job as much as you need to, but when we come off sideline, I'm going to focus on what we need to work on. And those are the things that stick out in my mind because those are the things that can cost you and can cost this team and can cost this community. So we take a lot of pride in that, and the kids do too. It's not like they can't go, what happened. Where we're getting to now, and it's the right time to get there, is they come over and I can say what happened and they can tell me. And so, but it's still mental mistakes, and mental mistakes get you beat, and that's our focus, and that's what we will get those corrected. And bottom line is this is a physical bunch of kids. I mean, they take a lot of pride in what we call the bank account and deposit it and put money in the bank because every one of those hits take a toll. Some of these kids we're playing, they're tough, they're prideful kids. They worked hard too. But what we preach and what our kids believe in is that if we hit them enough, they'll feel it at some point. And they've shown 3 weeks in a row that we're still playing against teenagers that are human beings, and our kids take a lot of pride in seeing if we can crack that shell.
And certainly held their running back aside from the one big run, held him down in check until, just like last week, as kind of the focal point of that offense, goes down with an injury on a clean hit from a Temple Wildcat defender. I mean, those are the kind of things that, you certainly don't want to see anybody hurt, especially long term. You don't see anybody injured necessarily.
Correct.
But that's the game of football, and that's part of football, and that's part of playing against this Temple Wildcat defense. They play fast, they swarm to the ball, and when you get hits, whether it's from a defensive back or from the law firm up front, they're going to feel it and remember it.
They take a lot of pride in being physical, and again, we teach whistle to whistle. We're not trying to hurt anybody. I don't ever want to see anybody get injured. But the bottom line is, we preach this is a man's game, and it's supposed to be played by men that are not necessarily happy to be out there. As far as we try to inflict our physical presence on other people, and Temple's always been a bucket list because I grew up with these kids. I grew up the road. I grew up with Chaz's dad, and Temple's always had a different cut of character. They've always been a little bit rougher edged kid, and that's right down my alley. So I mean, turning these kids loose is fun to watch.
Well, it's certainly good to have Quentin Smith back from the second play of the game. He made his impact felt with an interception, and certainly to get that ball right back to the offense, not give Vandegrift a chance to get their offensive rhythm before they look up and they're 2-3 scores down. I mean, it's great to have that offense, but certainly the offense very thankful to have a defense that gets them the ball back quickly as well.
Yeah, and Quentin is becoming a special kid because, I mean, what Quinn's always done is kind of rely on his athleticism, and he was just kind of that dude can go out there and do a double backflip right now. I mean, if you've watched him after the game, you know what I'm talking about. But he's always just relied on that and never had a whole lot of discipline. And he's starting to understand that if he can put some technique and some discipline in his life, he could be one of those special guys. And I mean, you see him when you take a good athlete like that and give him a little bit of discipline, give him a little bit of technique, and him buy into it, then, I mean, that dude, there's no telling, and he's got a whole nother year. But it's fun to watch him play. It's fun to watch the whole group. I mean, they're really enjoying this ride, and they're really enjoying what we're doing, and it's a good time right now.
Well, in talking with people, and when everybody asks, I mean, everywhere you go, if they know that you have anything to do with the Wildcats, they're asking about them, and they ask about the defense. And when you start looking it down position by position, I mean, as of right now, I don't believe there's anybody on the defensive side with a Division I offer for next year.
No, sir.
Yeah, so this is a team that individually, you look at them and say, well, surely they can't get it done. But as a collective group, they've really bought in. Since the Austin-Westlake game moving forward, they've bought in. Prior to that, of course, but they finally got it.
Right.
We talked about that right after that Austin-Westlake game, and the following week when the next full game when Harker Heights came to town, you saw the difference in the defensive side of the ball, and it's continued to today collectively so much better than individuals alone, and that's really what football defensively especially is all about.
It is, and these kids, and they genuinely, or at least they don't bring it up. They don't talk about individual, scholarship this, scholarship that. I mean, that's a process, and that's a part of high school football, especially successful high school football. But these kids don't seem to care about that a whole lot. I mean, they like being around each other. They like playing with each other. I don't build up the whole scholarship thing. I'll tell every one of them, if I had them in my desk, I'd give them out like candy. I don't. I'll help you where I can. But, right now, let's go do something that hadn't been done for a while. And those kids, they bought into that, and they don't worry about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of measurable Division I type guys, especially, or if there is, we're not worried about it right now. I mean, that'll come in the spring, and that'll come when it comes. I mean, these kids are kind of on a mission, and we'll handle all that stuff when it gets here.
Well, the mission, of course, has one more game. Looking for that final game this Saturday, playing against an Aledo team that's been there and done that. And, of course, they've got an offense now that in back-to-back years have put up some pretty astonishing numbers. What do you see on film, first and foremost, that jumps out at you?
Well, they're not a whole lot of weaknesses anywhere. I mean, they're skill kids. They've got some 2- and 3-year starters. I mean, the quarterback has started since he's a freshman. He's won 2 state championship games as the starting quarterback, playing for his third. The offensive line, they're 6'3", 280 across the board. That's their average. They're a good football team. They don't have a whole lot of weaknesses. They've got a slot receiver that's got 25 Division I offers. I mean, it's just they're impressive to watch. And all I've heard about is how good they are and how many state championships they've won. And I've had people tell me, second place, I don't like bad, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if it's all the same to everybody else, we'll show up and see if we can at least try to give them a game.
Yeah, 4 out of 6 ain't bad either. So,
right.
They'd still have something to talk about there.
Our kids they're going to show up and play. So, I wish them the best, but they better come on.
And no, this isn't a tape delay of last week or the week before of the Temple Coaches Show. It seems like you've heard this before, right?
Right. Everybody scores 60 points a game, and, it's just that's the life we live in as a defensive group nowadays. And I think our kids like the challenge. I mean, 35 kind of hurts my feelings. I'd rather be in the 14 or 21 range, but the bottom line is we are trying to keep people from doing at least what they've done. I mean, this group scores 48 a game. This group has 580 yards. The stats are just the stats nowadays. I mean, in December, offenses are real good, and they're all Corvettes. And if Corvette gets in a wreck, there ain't many pieces left.
And that's what Temple's left in its wake the last couple of weeks, especially with players falling left and right. And certainly the injury bug has been a part of the running back position for Aledo. They're healthy, at least as healthy as they have been. I found out an interesting note that the running back goes to cryotherapy. I guess is how he gets back onto the field. Kind of interesting. It sounds like a very Dallas type thing.
I got more money than I got.
But they're good, pretty much across the board offensively, but that's the same thing we've heard for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I would imagine that coupled with the headlines that the offense gets with Chad President, Jeff Carr, is it fair to say that this defense has a little bit of a deserved chip on their shoulder and use that to go out there and fight?
Yeah, and I don't think it's because of lack of recognition. All the same, I'd rather not anybody talk about us ever. We're just going to grab our lunch pails and go to work. I mean, we call ourselves the Chain Gang. We take a lot of pride in that. We don't. I'm not a high-profile guy. I kind of wince every time Coach asks me to come talk on the radio show, even though I love you to death. But we're not looking for the recognition. We want to go out there and we want to hit people in the mouth, and that's a personality that I think I've had for a while, and it's fun to be around a group because I've been places where kids didn't necessarily buy into that whole stock. They wanted to be the five-star athlete. They wanted to see who's looking at them. They wanted to know where the recruiters were from. This group, they like to grab their helmet and they like to go swing it as hard as they can and try to hit people in the face. And that's A-okay with me. Everybody else can get the pub, and we're fine. We'll go out there and we'll try to play some defense, and then where they let them lie where they lie.
When you go out and you look at all three levels of your defense, not who has come the farthest or made the biggest impact, but who on that defensive side of the ball has used these 5, now 6 extra games in the playoffs the most for themselves, the most that you've seen somebody progress in the sense of they've gotten a lot out of this, where if we would have been out in week 11, we wouldn't have seen this and they'd be much further behind.
I'm probably going to go with a lot of the younger guys. Taquan Graham has turned into a different human being. And he's Coach Spradlin said it the other day, he's going to go into his junior year being a junior and a half, if you will. I mean, which is next year. And he's got over another half a season. And that dude has grown tremendously as a player in his discipline and his maturity. Ashton Logan's in the same boat. Quentin Smith, probably from the starting product that I got my hands on in February, he's probably come the furthest, and that's through an injury. I mean, so there was some emotional and some maturity development there as well, trying to deal with some adversity and try to come back from an injury. It's some of those younger guys. I mean, the law firm, they had the same exact facial expression day one as they did last week after the game. I mean, those dudes, they're warriors. They're getting better, but they are who they are. They have been the rock of this defense. Ty McCorkle has been right behind them in the nest, and he has gotten better, no doubt. But, I mean, that kid had a wealth of experience coming in, the Ponce, Escobedo, Clint Cole. I mean, they're getting better. But some of the underclassmen, it's been fun and it's been very pleasing to watch them grow up as football players.
Well, I think that with Taquan Graham, we need to get him over to my house to eat Christmas dinner, get some meat on his bones. He's still got some filling out to do, but he's a beast already. But he could probably add another 30 pounds by the time he's a senior.
And if he does, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that frame that you see for a prototypical defensive end that can rush and terrorize the passer, and he's only a sophomore and a half at this point in time. So, defensive coordinator Scott Stewart joining us on the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. Appreciate your time, Coach, and hopefully when we talk again, we're talking about yet another offense that's seen its average just plummet from the sky, and talking about a state championship.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know they're quote unquote unstoppable, but again, we'll be obliged to show up and see if we can't give them a game.
Well, it'll be fun to watch. Saturday, 12 noon, 11 a.m. kickoff. Thank you, Coach Stewart, for your time throughout the season. And, again, certainly hope that see you at a victory celebration in the very near future.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, we'll take a quick break, come back. We'll talk with head coach Mike Spradlin again. We'll talk more about Aledo and what they do defensively and what this Temple offense will be able to do to counteract that. That's when we continue on the Temple High School Football Coaches Show here on News Radio 1400 KTEM. News Radio 1400 KTEM. Welcome back. It's the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. Jamie Garrett here with head coach Mike Spradlin. My thanks again to defensive coordinator Scott Stewart, and my thanks to you, Coach. I know there's a billion different things going on. We're kind of back here in the nuclear shelter, the bomb shelter, because there's so many people out front for tickets and everything else. So a lot goes into these games this time of year that doesn't just involve coaching, doesn't it? Well,
it's a great problem to have. I tell you what, I'll take it, man. I'm going to tell you, I'm not frustrated by it. I can promise you that. We do have to manage it, Jamie. I'll be honest with you. It's quite a week. I mean, you're playing the games on TV and getting pulled in a lot of different directions. But I'll take it, brother. I'm going to tell you, it's one of those things that the alternative is that I'm getting ready for Christmas, and right now I had to ask my wife the other night. I said, so what are we doing for Christmas? I mean, I hadn't even thought about it.
Is there a tree up in the Spraddle home?
There is.
Okay,
actually.
okay.
Oh, trust me, my wife, we're decorated to the hilt. There's no question. And Jamie, it's interesting. I mean, here we sit, on a Tuesday afternoon in the last week of the semester. Kids are taking exams, and we started this season. Friday night we played Round Rock in the first week of school, and here we are finishing the semester on a Saturday on the last week of the semester. It's a pretty cool deal, man. The playing the 6 games. I've heard coaches talk about this and all that, but it's huge in experience for your football team. I mean, we were playing in our 6th postseason game, and when you look at that, I mean, the best perspective I can give you is this was the week we played Manor, in the regular season. And when we played Manor, there were only 4 regular season games left. So, when you look at it and you put it in that perspective, the ability that our young kids have had to continue to practice, continue to play, particularly the sophomore kids. I know Coach Stewart mentioned Taquan and those kids. Devontae Neely getting 125 yards in the state semifinal game will pay huge dividends for him. Cole Martin, the things he's gotten to do. And then just the numerous other kids who have made the trip, worked out every day. It's a big deal, for our football program, as well as for the city of Temple, which I can't say enough about.
Well, and it's certainly Chad President, he's had the commitment to Baylor for so many years now, it seems, but and you would think that there's not a lot of pressure in that regard, but, there's that competition for the next level for him. He wants to make as good an impression as he can here to build on that momentum. I mean, he's going from a championship game to Baylor the next week or so, and it's right into a bowl game for them. I mean, so he's got a lot of football left to play, but it's good to see him get as many games as he's had here for Temple, and he has without question shined far and above. I mean, he has just been phenomenal throughout the postseason.
Chad's been outstanding, in all 5 of our playoff wins, and he's, he couldn't have executed what we've done better. He stayed very grounded. He will this week too, Jamie. I mean that kid's going to graduate Friday and play on Saturday. I mean, it's crazy. It's kind of like the baseball thing, where where those kids graduate in the spring and then they play in the state championship game. So it's a cool deal, man. I can sit here and say it, and it's not an obligatory deal. It's a fact. Our fan base in this city, town, I like to call it a town because to me city suggests Dallas, Houston. I think Temple is a town. It's a community, and it's been phenomenal, Jamie. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. I've heard when you talk about how fans generate excitement for a team, I'll be honest with you. The only game I've ever been in high school, coach, that I thought it was like this was when we played Abilene High at Cooper, and we'd have 18,000 people there. There's just something that brings that our fans are bringing to the table, an element that when we go out and we feel that energy, man, it is something that this is the first time I can say the fans really are making a difference. I mean, and that's not the first time, but it really is. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I mean our backing and the people that are showing up, and you look out here and the line's out past the gate, every day, and I mean it's a big deal, man. This is an awesome place. Temple's an incredible place to live in a great town, a great community.
And certainly, they love their Wildcats, and I know a lot of people on Facebook yesterday were posting pictures of the line out the door, and one of the things that people were posting is pictures of you going up and down, shaking people's hands and saying hello. So it's clear that you're enjoying this as well, not letting, the pressure that might build on some shoulders really show it all, and really kind of enjoying the experience while remaining focused and probably the same mentality that your players are taking at this time.
Well, that's why I came here. I don't say this in a way. I don't want anybody to suggest it. But, we had a nice 3-year run at Cooper, and they've had a nice run since we left. But I saw something, and we're seeing it, that could happen here. And the one high school town, the whole thing, man. It's just I can't say enough, and how much I'm enjoying, that rapport with our fans and with our people. I mean, there really are a special group of fans. I mean, when you look up and, you take a team like Austin Vandegrift and you look up and you've outnumbered them, in the stands by quite a big margin, I might add, that's pretty special.
Yeah, and certainly a 2-hour drive down the toll road. I can't wait to get that bill after Saturday. But going up to Dallas this Saturday, going up to Arlington, I'm sure a lot of Wildcat fans got some Christmas shopping in the plans as well. But the task at hand is Aledo. The attitude, we've heard it before from Coach Stewart earlier and from you earlier as well. And that's, we're going to show up and play, anoint them all you want. But it's the same story the Wildcats have been hearing, at least for the last 2 weeks since George Ranch, when the Wildcats were picked by these so-called experts to lose that ball game. You've kind of been bucking that trend for a while now.
Well, Jamie, I think people have acknowledged that we're good, but quite frankly, we feel like we've been behind the 8 ball for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so here we go again. I mean, I just want to encourage our fans. I know it's on TV, and I know that's easy, but man, we need you at AT&T, and I know they're going to show up. I mean, I see it, the evidence of it by the lines out the door. Starting the day they were out here early this morning before the door opened. So it's a big factor for us, and I am excited that our kids have now been on some big stages. And this I really believe will not wow them. I mean, it's a neat place and a neat stadium and all that. And I've heard all that stuff about how, Aledo calls it, whatever it is, their second home and all that kind of stuff. All I know is when we walk out there, there's going to be some stripes on the field. They're going to be 100 yards long. And I'm not saying that Coach cliche. Why? I just know our kids have embraced that. I mean, once they step on the turf and between the lines, they're playing football, and that's what our kids will do.
We're here with head coach Mike Spradlin. That game Saturday, 12 noon kickoff, 11 a.m. for the pregame show and what will be Gene Pemberton's final game after 28 seasons. I don't think there's a player, coach, or citizen in Temple more excited than Gene Pemberton to make that ride one more time, and got one more game in him. We got a couple surprises for Gene on Saturday as well.
Awesome.
But looking forward to that and being a part of that. And certainly for Gene, he's called one state championship game. I've heard some of that game before that he did, and kind of awaken the sleeping giant in the Temple program, as Gene kind of leaves the program, or leaves the broadcast anyway on a full-time basis. But, Coach, Aledo, they've been here, they've won, they've set records offensively. You've been able to just blow offensive averages out of the water all season long, but certainly this is a team that they're here for a reason.
Oh, Jamie, make no mistake about it. I mean, the only tangible thing that's going to matter is the two teams playing, and that's all I'm referring to when I refer to all the 4 out of 5 and all that stuff. I mean, making them earn it, those things. I mean, let's make no bones about it. I mean, Aledo's a very good football team, very good program, very well coached. They're in this thing for a reason, and so they're gonna bring an element to the game that's no different than any other team that comes. They're going to be good at what they do. They're big. They're physical. They've got speed at running back position. Got a great wide receiver. I mean, the best we've seen by far. Quarterback's been in a couple of state championship games. Big up front defensively. Their head coach was the ex-defensive coordinator, and so they're a very, very solid football team, Jamie. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that. But we think we are too. I mean, it's that age-old deal. I've said it all year long. Yes, we're going to have to play a good football team. We think they're going to have to play one too. So let's go out. Let's tee it up. We're going to get 48 minutes of football, and someone's going to walk off the field a state champion. Someone's going to walk off the field a runner-up, and we prefer to be that champion.
And getting the early start on Saturday, 12 noon, will be the kickoff time there. And when you look at the game film from last week, when Aledo played John Tyler, Tyler came in scoring some, a pretty good amount of points as well. What were they able to do? What jumped out on film, and what does jump out from the film when you look at the defensive side of the ball for Aledo?
Well, they're just solid. I mean, they play well as a unit. They know where they're supposed to be. They've got 2 really good defensive tackles. And they're just sound. I mean, that's the best. They get lined up. You don't catch them, off guard, so to speak, things like that. So, they were able to put some heat on John Tyler and blitz them up a little bit, and so that's the best thing I can tell you, James. They're very solid at what they're doing. They've now played, we've been talking about this 5 or 6 game run we've made and how important that is to our kids. Well, their seniors have been a part of that. And now you look at that situation, you say, well, they played another season and a half, So, I mean, that's probably, the thing that I see the most is just experience.
And certainly it's going to take mistake-free football. The Wildcats have been pretty close to that, a few turnovers here and there. But the ability of this offense to think that another defense would be able to slow them down for a full 48 minutes would just – make my head explode at this point in time trying to think about that. But certainly it's something that is going to have to be earned on the field. There's only so much coach speak at this point in the season or announcer questions that can be asked. It's just that moment in the season that you're not going to be playing next week, so there's a lot of guys that's going to leave everything they've got out there on the field. Is there one guy that you look out there and you just see in their eyes, 1, 2, 3 guys that you can see in their eyes that this Saturday they might have to be carried off the field?
Well, and I want to be careful with that, Jamie, because I'm going to tell you, I feel like all 22, 35, how many guys play, that'll be the case. I have no doubts in my mind that our kids are going to leave it on the field. There's no question about that. And I think we've got some kids that, when I look in their eyes, kids like Clint Cole, come to my mind because he's been so passionate about, how hard he plays and how important it is to him. He comes to my mind. Of course, Jeff, Chad, our old lineman, Jose Lopez has been a tremendous leader. Travis Locke's been a tremendous leader. Defensively, when I look at Clint, Edward Escobedo, Marquel Ponce, I'm just Ty McCorkle, start looking at those senior kids, the Hernandez twins, and Tyler Hannon. I'm mentioning our senior group, Marcus, Jeff, those guys. I see it, and their leadership as seniors and their ability to lay it on the line has been there. Now, what's cool is we're not just playing for our seniors. Our young kids have also understand that, and they're coming along for the ride. They realize this is a shot you may not get again. Are we going to try to play for one next year? Absolutely. But right now, this is the shot, and so I think our team understands that and focused on that.
And certainly the senior leadership on the offensive side of the ball is probably a very comforting thing. Defensive stats or players aside, the senior leadership and the play of Chad President and Jeff Carr and Marcus Hatcher is far and above probably the biggest reason that the Wildcats are here at this point in the season. But again, you got to go back to the defensive side of things. And, if the game's going to be won, it's going to take the defense making at least a few stops throughout the game to keep their offense out on the field.
We're going to have to make our plays. There's no question about that. And they're going to force us to. We're going to force them to, and it's going to be a 48-minute football deal. We're going to have to play hard for those 48 minutes. Be prepared. Well, we're going to have a great week of practice. I have no doubt. I feel the energy. There's a little bit of a sense of, and I want to be careful with this. I don't want anybody to suggest to anyone that we think we've arrived. But there is some sense that, okay, we're here, so now we really can, kind of get out of our head. This is the last game, So I think there's a little bit of a sense that we can kind of, if you will, let go. You know what I mean? And just go. Go play. We haven't played that way. I don't even know really why I'm saying it. But I think we're going to do what we try to do. We're going to play fast. We're going to try to play physical. And we're going to try to play smart.
Does it help that it's almost a rhythm to it, a routine now, playing on Saturday that you've done it now? It'll be 3 weeks in a row.
Absolutely. It's a and the noon game throws a little bit of a dynamic in it. We'll have to get prepared to play a lot quicker. But we had to do that with the 2:00 game, and we've had to get up early. All that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, that's the thing that I've been the least worried about, Jamie. You mentioned the air conditioner on the bus thing. We actually got on our bus to go to San Antonio, and the bus I was on, the air conditioner was out. And it was kind of a warm day, so we had to stop, trade some buses out, just like we did going to Westlake. So It was kind of an interesting dynamic, and went down there and won. So, our kids have been great with that stuff all year long.
Yeah, in the Alamo Dome. Just a suggestion, Wi-Fi for next year. Rosters, we didn't have those. And what would be the other thing? Oh, people in jackets that know where to send you.
There you go. Yeah. I got a lot of shrugged shoulders on Saturday. I was a little bit disappointed with that. But other than that, great venue, loud. And that's what I wanted our kids to get into, because the dome stadiums are louder. Mm-hmm. And there's a different perspective on the football. Quite frankly, I've had some really good throwing days in dome stadiums, and because there's no element involved. So I just thought it was a big dynamic for us to get in that environment. And I think it's really going to pay some dividends for us on Saturday.
Certainly helps Chad with those deep passes, too. He laid that one into Freeman when the pass interference that came with it, when the receiver or the defender was tackling him, and just put it in there like a video game.
Couldn't have thrown it any better.
Yeah, he got those beautiful lob passes that he throws downfield, and inside that dome, they were just dropping.
Yes, sir.
They were dropping.
Yes, sir.
Head coach Mike Spradlin joining us here on the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. My thanks to defensive coordinator Scott Stewart. My thanks to Dave back in the studio for helping us make this happen today. And, of course, my thanks to head coach Mike Spradlin. Thank you very much for 16 weeks now of doing this, and look forward to hopefully getting you back to talk about a big celebration here very soon.
Well, Jamie, you do an awesome job, man. We really appreciate you and what you do. My 90-year-old mother listens to you on the radio every week. She says, I like that guy. So that tells me something.
I got the stamp of approval.
That's right. So I appreciate what you do for us, man. You've done an awesome job, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a fun ride. Let's go finish this deal.
Let's finish it up. And Gene Pemberton finishing up 28 years on the air with the Temple Wildcats as well. It'd be a great way for him to go out on Saturday. I think he's trying to ride the team bus back even. He wants to get on there and have some fun.
Well, Jamie, I love Gene. I mean, there's not a finer Wildcat that I've been around, honestly, since I've been here. I mean, he comes up every Saturday morning to the weight room, and God bless him, he's done this for a long time, and he's a tremendous Christian man, with a great heart, and I love him for that, love him for his love for the Wildcats and what he's done for us.
Well, I look forward to being a part of his final broadcast this Saturday as the Temple Wildcats will kick off at 12 noon, pregame time 11 o'clock, and we'll have that on KTEM and on K1017, online on the websites and, of course, on the Radio Pup app. Coach, thank you so much for your time. UMHB Coaches Show coming up right after we're finished up here on News Radio 1400 KTEM.